Now, before we get into anything else, we have to configure our database. And you configure your database in your database.yml file under the configurations folder. And this is pretty much what they give you as a template when you first generate a new Rails project. Now, SQLite is a good little database to use, but it's not really what we want to use for a highly intensive app. So we're going to change that, and we're going to use MySQL. MySQL is pretty much another version or another type of database that most applications would use. It's something called a relational database, and I'm not going to go into details, but if you want to look into that, then you're welcome to Google it. But what you're going to do here is you're going to set the adapter to MySQL to tell it to use MySQL. And the database, you're going to name it to be a certain name. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it project_meal_dev. My username is root and my password is admin. Now the username and password might be a little bit different for you depending on how your database is configured. Mine is just configured such that you can only use the database when I have a username called root and a password called admin. If you want to change that, then again you could Google that as well. What can you do with Google? Your host would pretty much be localhost for this kind of project. Pool, we're not going to think about that. Timeout, we'll leave that. We're not even going to think about that too. The port we're going to use is 3306, and that is generally the port for your development database. Now, our development database here, those are the defaults. So using this line, we could just import the defaults. But for our database, we're going to name it project_meal_dev. Test, we're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to name this instead project_meal_test. Now for production, again, we're going to keep the database, but we're going to do something different. We're still going to keep the adapter the same. So we're going to do adapter MySQL2. And coding is usually UTF-8. Those are just generic. Usually that's what you go with. Database. Now, this is going to be a little bit strange, but when you upload your application to a server or a platform such as Heroku or Amazon, usually you would keep or you would set the database, your username and password on their side. So you would actually call something called an environment variable, and RDS DB name would be the key that would be the variable that you would name your database under in on whatever platform you're using. So that's how it is different from your development and your tests, in which you're not using or not uploading a certain project meal username or password that people can read from the file, but you're gonna configure your server on production on Amazon or Heroku with with a variable and with whatever that variable holds. So for example, if you use username, then you would you would use a variable called RDS username, for example, and under that username you would set it to root on that server. So that's basically I hope that's a good enough explanation to help you understand how to do that, but we're gonna go through some examples in some later videos, so if you don't understand it, no worries. But we're just gonna finish off these variables. So we're going to use RDS hostname, and your port would be, again, if you don't understand what I'm doing here in production, no worries. I'm just setting our production environment variables to read that instead of reading it from some file that we're going to upload to our server. And that is something you never want to do just because of security issues. If you keep these variables on someone else's server or on a platform as a service server, then you can be sure that the guys behind that platform will secure it for you. So that's all I want to go through for this video, but Yeah, I think that's all we want to do for this video. Let's see if we could, well, we don't have any migration files yet, so we'll leave that for the next video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.